So much volleyball going on. In my particular case, I live just down the road from the AVP kickoff in New Orleans this weekend. I won't be there, but we got people covering it for DestinationVolleyball.com. I'm going to Lone Star with my Volleyball Baton Rouge 14s girls, the biggest tournament ever, except for like the Nationals. It's immense in the Dallas Convention Center. But this weekend also marks the start of NCAA men's playoffs. In essence, everybody's in elimination right now. And so I got a couple of the guys to come on with me. Coach Bill Ferguson. Well, there was Ray Gooden from Northern Illinois, who does ESPN on men's matches and is going to bring us up to speed on the MIVA. And Bill Ferguson in his LA backyard going to talk some MPSF. Fergie, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's good that you can hear me.
Oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, we had our technical difficulties. Ray, last year, of course, Loyola won its back-to-back championships. Lewis, the other Chicago team, in the final with him. This year, things are a little bit more complicated than that for those two schools. How do you see that as their conference tournament begins this weekend?
Yeah, I think, Lee, the biggest thing has been the fact that, last year I think was the year of the left side or the pin hitter. And I think both of those teams, Lewis and Loyola had some really strong left side hitting. And this year, both of those teams have been trying to find their way. I think their middles are for both teams are pretty strong, but I think they really need some left side, solid, solid feel about what they're trying to do. So if they can do that, I mean, they're still both really good and both competitive. It's just more balance as opposed to just relying on a Jeske, or a Caldwell, something like that, or a Powell for Lewis.
Ray Gooden, by the way, is the women's coach at Northern Illinois, but in the spring he jumps over to the men's side. And this week in MIVA, Grand Canyon at Lewis, Quincy at Loyola, McKendree, kind of a nice story, but at Ball State, which for a while there was one of the big stories in men's college volleyball, and then IPFW at Ohio State. If Ohio State doesn't win this tournament, Ray, is it an upset?
It is. It's an upset. I think it's in Ohio State's hands right now. They played some really good volleyball over the past probably 2 months. I mean, probably their biggest hiccup has been the Ball State match they had when they were up 2-0 and ended up losing that one in 5. Since then, they've had some really significant wins, including the win against Long Beach. I think they've won in the neighborhood of 17 in a row. So, they're playing some pretty good volleyball, doing some really good things. And they've got a chance of being able to be one of the top teams in the country.
Hey, Fergie, we'll talk about the MPSF in a second, but if Ohio State were to lose in the final of the MIVA championships, would Ohio State get over one of those MPSF teams for the at-large bids, one of the two at-large bids, or do you think that it's a foregone conclusion that the MPSF bids are going to go, the two remaining NCAA at-large bids will go to MPSF teams?
No, I think it's very probable or likely that Ohio State would get that bid. They've got, if you look at all of the criteria, their overall record, their home record, their road record, their wins against teams in the field or in consideration. Now, mind you, those Penn State matches that they got wins in are huge because Penn State's going to win most likely in the EIVA and get in, and then their win at Long Beach State. I mean, that's got to be probably the biggest feather in their cap as far as the at-large process goes. UCLA will be in there, and I believe UCLA beat them in the very first weekend of the year. Isn't that their other loss, if I'm not mistaken? So their portfolio, if you will, is probably better than anybody's, and they match up against everybody when it comes to the at-large situation. So I've been telling you privately that Ball State could screw the whole thing up, and that still stays the same. And if Ball State were to somehow get in the final against Ohio State and get a win, then then you're gonna probably have two Midwest teams again, and then two, one East and two from the MPSF.
Well, speaking of the other leagues, of course, there's the EIVA, where Penn State is by far the best team. Now, that doesn't guarantee them anything. Their regular season finishes up this week, and then Penn State, the perennial EIVA winner, and Ray, I know you keep an eye on that league a little bit, but before that, let me touch quickly because I got the printed material right here. Conference Carolinas, the winner gets the bid for that league as one of the final 6 and will be the 6th seed. Most likely, number 1 Erskine good also in the hunt there. Number 2 Pfeiffer, number 3 Barton. One of those teams doesn't win. But Ray, do you pay much attention to EIVA and/or Conference Carolinas? It's hard not to make like a Conference Carolinas joke, but I'm not going to do it.
Right. A little bit with Penn State. I think, Pav and his group, it's their tournament to win. I mean, they for sure have the history. They've had some hiccups, with some matches, the St. Francis, a couple others, but I feel like he's getting his group ready to make a run because they know how to play at this time of year.
And, of course, Penn State, the host team for the Final 6, which is 2 play-in matches on Tuesday, then the semifinals Thursday, and the national championship match on a Saturday. Well, Fergie, see if you can make some sense out of the alphabet soup that is the MTSF. The way in the beginning, I can't remember who was BYU the pick way back when.
They were, and they just kind of stayed the course, and boy, did they ever get the job done. I think their wins at UCLA were real impressive. They seemed to be, they were tight matches, but it didn't ever seem like they were out of control, or that UCLA was really surging. And UCLA's been playing the ball too. So they came right off of the spring break and beat Long Beach in 3. And then, BYU comes into Westwood and UCLA. Stanford, it looks like it's kind of been slowed a little bit. There's the whole deal about, whether you want to keep your momentum or give your guys a break. And, you and I have been talking about semester schools versus quarter schools, and you have UCLA and Stanford, which had to take that mandatory week off, and I've been trying to pay attention to that. And it looks like other than the BYU weekend, UCLA's come out of that break playing a little more clean, and it looks like Stanford's trying to kind of get their mojo back, if you will. So that's something I would pay attention to. Is that break going to actually be advantageous to UCLA and Stanford over the next week and a half, 2 weeks? Or is it going to kind of be the end of the momentum for them? So that's I think, going to be something really interesting to pay attention to. Everybody else is on a semester system where they were just in school. There was really no change, no break. But whoever gets to the Final Four is likely going to be in the middle of finals if they're a semester school. So that's all the kind of stuff behind the stuff things that I think people can look for with some of these teams here. At least
great phrase, stuff behind the stuff. I like that. Bill, of course, the former head coach at USC, he's been to the Final Four. But Fergie, the Saturday the matches, number 8 seed Irvine at BYU, UCSB at Stanford, and that's the 5 and the 4, and that has every indication of being a great match. Pepperdine at Long Beach State. Long Beach State, I think, might be the biggest X factor in the whole field of all the 4 conferences. And then Hawaii at UCLA. There's gonna be an upset. We just know that there'll be an upset either in the first or second rounds of the MPSF. You want to pick one?
No, they're all terrifying. If I was one of the top 4, I'd be, not sleeping so good. Hawaii's traditionally, when they're a lower seed, they come out and play somebody on the road in the first round. They took BYU to the brink in 5 in Provo in 2014. If you're looking at Pepperdine, they kind of remind me of our USC team in 2009 that finished 5th in the conference and made a run all the way to the finals. They've got some young guys mixed in with a couple of veterans. And then the 4 or 5 matchup, that's Santa Barbara was real good, and I expected big things from them in the beginning of the year, and then they hit that rough spot in the kind of the doldrums of March, and it sure seems like they've found a level of interest again, and that, and then then Irvine. Tamir Hershko has been out all year, and just came back 2 weeks ago. Was a little bit hampered last week, and so I don't think BYU has seen a team come into Provo and serve like Irvine can serve at altitude, and Irvine's got some guys that can go to the line and change a match real quick, and so that's gonna be the one that could be crazy, because Irvine could walk in there and just serve a team off the court. And if they got the confidence and the mojo to go in and do that at altitude, then that BYU match can be pretty crazy because Irvine's also as big and physical all the way around as BYU is. So all of those matches are just kind of, man.
Yeah, they'll be going crazy. If Irvine beats BYU at BYU, and of course, last week Santa Barbara beat Stanford. So you got that rematch. All right, Ray, in the MIVA, you got to pick an upset or two for me, or you think it's going to go true to form?
Well, I think that it's Ohio State's to win, like we talked about before, but I think Loyola, Lewis, and I think on a good day for Ball State, any one of those guys can give it a run to win the whole thing. But I really do think that Lewis has been itching to get that one win. They've had a lot of 5-set losses this year. They've come real close. Loyola still knows how to win a championship, I feel. They have enough parts there to be successful. Ohio State's just playing great volleyball right now. But I do feel if you get to those 4, any one of those guys can win it. But Ohio State looks to be the most consistent team right now.
All right. I enjoyed chatting with you guys and catching up. And it's going to be really fun to watch and see what happens this week. And thanks for watching another episode of us talking at DestinationVolleyball.com. And if you're just here for the men's volleyball, come on back anytime to check out all we do with women's volleyball, the beach scene, and a little this and a little of that. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.